Started. Good afternoon, everybody. Joseph Miranda, broker owner, Miranda Executive Realty, for our latest installment of our Ask the Broker Elite Training Sessions. Before we get started, we're going to do a little housekeeping. Start with our shameless plug. If you're an agent with our office and you'd like to share this with another agent, please feel free to scan the QR code or send them the QR code. Or if you're not an agent with our office and you want to learn more, scan that QR code and somebody will reach out to you. Polite reminder that, these are opinions that we're going to be sharing here. I am a real estate broker. I am not an attorney, a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant, financial advisor, or otherwise. Everything that I share here is my opinion. These are best practices and how I operate my business, but things do change. And so, before making too many decisions, seek proper counsel with whomever that may be. As we go through, if you have any questions, you can put the question in the chat box over there on the side, and I'll finish my thought, and then I can we'll address the question. Or if you want to just save your questions until the end, that's fine as well. No big deal. We'll come around at the end, and you can have the opportunity to ask any questions that you have. So, all right, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it. Today we are talking about the YES formula. Right? What is the YES formula? These are tips and tricks that you can use to help get your customers to yes. Now, with great power comes great responsibility. Some of the things that we're going to talk about today are, they're things like neuro-linguistic programming. So these are things that can really, I don't know. I guess I don't know. I don't think we're not necessarily hypnotizing people per se, but we are helping them to make decisions. So, you use these things wisely. So, the truth about appointments. Let me tell you, number one, we talk a lot about our sales funnel here. And at the end of the day, I really don't care about anything except for appointments. That's the only thing I care about. It doesn't matter how many numbers you dial. It doesn't matter how many contacts you have. It doesn't matter, what you get. At the end of the day, the only thing that really matters in the course of your day are the appointments that you set, right? So my business, when I built it started on the phones. And it wasn't my job to get them to yes while I was on the phone. My goal was to get them to yes to meet me, not yes to work with me, just yes to meet me. So there's certain questions, there's certain things that you would answer or you would address along the way. But at the end of the day, it all boils down to get the appointment. And some stuff you wouldn't answer the question over the phone with the intention that, okay, we will talk about that at the appointment. You would close for the appointment. But when you're crystal clear on your desired outcome, it makes it a lot easier to figure out, if this happens, then I have to do this. The number one thing that matters are the appointments that you go on. Dials, leads, and none of that conversations. Yes, no, this, no, one more, I'm one no closer to a yes. Literally none of that matters. The only thing that matters is get the appointment. The only thing because if you don't get the appointment, you don't have a chance, right? You don't have a shot at it, right? So what do you do next, right? You get the appointment. What is the next challenge? You got the appointment. It's exciting, right? It's, in the beginning of your career, it's actually maybe even a little scary when you get the listing appointment because there's a lot to think about, and you can get so caught up in putting together your marketing plan, figuring out how to fill out the contracts, make sure you have the right contracts. You get caught up in that you forget, well, what's the next yes that I need to get to? And that point, you need to get the agreement signed. All that work means nothing if at the end of the day you don't get it right. So what are we going to talk about in the yes factor today? Right. So we got basically broken it down into a few simple steps, always in some type of acronym. So we're going to talk about yielding trust and yielding control. We're going to expose objections early, establish authority, and at the end of this, we're going to secure the signature. right? That means that you got it right. So as I mentioned earlier, some of this is going to be neuro-linguistic programming, NLP. This is, this looks at a lot of different factors of an individual, and it helps you to determine what the best way to communicate with them is. Not just verbal communication, but also bodily, physical communication. It's going to help you to find the patterns in their speaking. It's going to help you find, and it's going to help you to even kind of set some programming into the way that they move forward. This is not an intensive NLP training, right? This really isn't even necessarily NLP. It's just taking some of the things, right? So, NLT, neuro-linguistic techniques. Well, I thought it was neuro-linguistic programming. So, but what does it focus on? Focusing on your language, bodily and verbal, your tone, the behavior, and then the decision making, right? So what you want to do is when you're having conversations with people, if you can address these areas, right? The language, tone, behavior, decision making, you're going to make it easier for them to connect with you, and it's going to help you to build trust with that individual. And without trust, you won't have anything. Speaking of trust, let's talk about that first. How are we going to get our customers to yield trust? My number one, my favorite thing to do with people is mirror and match. If you've known me for any amount of time, you know that I talk about mirroring and matching. You can do this over the phone. You should do this over the phone, where you match the tone, pace, and wording, right? You can also do this in person. However, when you're doing this in person, as you can see, these two people are sitting across from the table. They both got their hands kind of, well, one is crossed, one is kind of cupped, but they're still sitting in similar positions. People like them, right? So when you're speaking with somebody and you're on the phone, you can really zero in on their tone, pace, and wording. When you're sitting with them in person, you should still zero in on those, but you're also going to want to look at their body language, the way that they sit, their posture, things like that. You're looking for patterns in their words. If they say something all the time, then you can pick up and you can say those same words, right? Really, this is something that's going to help you to connect with people, because again, they're going to feel like you are like them, and it's going to be subconscious. So like this creates a subconscious trust, right? Now, you want them to trust you because you know that you are the best decision that they can make when they're buying or selling a home, right? We're not trying to earn somebody's trust so that we can take advantage of it. Remember, everything we do is legal, ethical, and moral. So keep the morals and the ethics, and legalities. You're probably not going to get somebody to do something illegal. But ethically and immorally, I don't know, morals, there you have a sliding scale there. Next, labeling, right? So let's say you're talking to somebody and they give you a little bit of feedback, right? Well, how do you address that feedback? You want to label that feedback, because they need to know that you hear them and that you understand what they're saying. For example, here, we're not really sure yet. Well, let's clarify what you're not sure about, right? Sounds like you're still in the early stage of exploring options, right? Because you're going to need, when they say we're not really sure yet, you might need to find some context in some previous areas of conversation that you had. You might want to find some context into, some statements that they made earlier. Dig a little bit deeper into that so that you can really find what they're trying to say underneath what they are really saying. You're not sure. Well, why are you not sure, right? What do we need to do to make you sure? And these are not questions that you're going to come out and just ask them, right? These are things that you need to figure out along the way in that conversation. But when they're not sure yet, I understand you're not sure yet. We just, we really just began the meeting. My goal today is going to be to help you be sure by the end of our meeting, right? But make sure you're addressing in a proper way, right? Again, and talking about addressing, when they say something, find the need behind the need, right? Well, why do you need a bigger space? Because you have a growing family, right? Why are you looking to sell? Like the why. They always talk about find the why, right? And dig deeper into that why. There's and you can always tell them, tell me more about that. Why are you looking for a bigger place? Oh, because our family is expanding, it's growing. Okay, great. Now that's still general. The family's expanding and growing, but that could mean they're pregnant. That could mean their kid is pregnant and coming home. That could mean that they're going to be adopting somebody, or a kid. Who knows what that really means, right? That could mean a lot of things. Maybe mom is coming back in to come live with them. Family's expanding. We don't really know what that means. Tell me more about that. What is this, right? Because the needs of a couple having a baby compared to the needs of mom or dad moving in, compared to the needs of your daughter moving in, and she's having a baby. These are all different needs. So you can't just you can't just listen to, we want a bigger place. Okay, let's get you a bigger place. Tell me more about that. How many more bedrooms will you need? How many more bathrooms? How many bedrooms need to have an attached bathroom? Right? Are there any other features or benefits that you're looking for in a house? Any type of amenities? This, that, whatever it is. But you need to dig deeper into that. And at any point when the opportunity arises, there's nothing wrong with saying, tell me more about that. Tell me more about that. I'm curious. I'd like to know more about this. Very important. Find the why behind the why, because it goes deep. It goes very deep. And most people don't realize how deep their why actually goes. You might have to ask them why 7 times to get to the real root of the problem. I know this when we do business planning, your big why. And the big why for most people on the surface, I want to do this for my family. But when you really dig into the big why on why somebody has these goals or why somebody is looking to achieve this certain thing, it's usually not the family. And there's something much deeper in there. There's something psychologically, maybe it's from the childhood, maybe it's from, I don't know, the situation that they're in now. I don't know what there's as many people as there are on the earth. There's that many probably reasons, but the why is always deeper. Why do you want to do this for your family, right? Why is that important to you, right? Why do you say it like that? And you keep going into it and you keep going into it until eventually you're going to get to the real reason. And when you can get to the real reason, that's when you tap into what? You tap into their emotion. It's important, right? Because an investor is looking at a home logically. They're looking at numbers, right? They're looking at numbers. Numbers don't work. A primary home user is looking at a home emotionally. They are essentially marrying this. If they're buying the home, they are marrying the home. It is an emotional decision. So you need to get the need behind the need. If you don't get that, if you don't get deep enough into it, then you might miss something, right? So always be listening and never be shy to ask, tell me more about that. Or why do you say that? Why do you say that like that? Right? I didn't understand what you said. Can you explain it a little bit further? That's okay to ask. It's actually really required that you ask that. You really need to ask these questions. Digging deeper will definitely help you understand. And once people's emotions are involved, then that's when you know that they're serious and about ready to make a decision, right? What about a pattern interrupt? Okay, what is a pattern interrupt? Let's say things aren't going your way. Let's say things are really going very badly, and I do this one a lot, right? And sometimes it doesn't work out for me, right? I was actually with some buyers. It was maybe 3 weeks ago, and they had just started looking. They're investors, and we looked at one house. And my goal was really to just have a meeting at this one house, the Spider-Man method, right? Everybody gets one, and that's what I was using here. And we got there, and we looked at the home. It wasn't the right one, and we went, sat in the car, and we were having a meeting, and they were grilling me. Like, they were really, really grilling me. Like, they were really, like, busting my chops. And what they were busting my chops over was the agency agreement. They asked me, am I going to make them sign an agency agreement? And I said, yes. I said, yes, you have to sign an agency agreement. They didn't want to sign it. And I explained to them why, right? I explained to them why. And they were still kind of busting my chest, like, okay, we understand, still, and I it just got to the point where I told them, I said, look, to be honest with you guys, I might not be the right agent for you. I may not be the person that's going to be best suited to work with you guys, because this is a requirement that I have for myself. And if you guys are giving me so much pushback now, then I think you don't see the value in what I do, right? And I told him, and I was like, look, this one here today, this is on me. Don't worry about it. That this one's on me. But going forward, if you're not willing to sign something, then I can't spend any more time on this, right? And that was that pattern interrupt. And the tone of the rest of that conversation changed from there, because I went from being on the defensive to being on the offensive, right? And it's also a closing technique, the takeaway, right? So a lot of these things, you can use them in these different areas, but if you're on an appointment and things are not going well, you need to interrupt it. Same thing, like, what if you get caught into a negative thinking cycle, right? Interrupt the pattern, interrupt it, find something. And this is a Tony Robbins thing. He talks a lot about pattern interruption. You have to break the pattern. So when things are going in a spiral and they start to go negative, no matter where you are, for me in that case, or in this case, it's when you're with the customer, on a sales meeting or a sales call or whatever, but you can implement a pattern interrupt anywhere in your life. If you're having an argument with your spouse or your significant other, right, and get a pattern interrupt. If you just catch yourself again, like in a negative thinking cycle, get a pattern interrupt, or have somebody interrupt your pattern, right? Like, I can tell you this, look, if let's say you're sad, right? You're sad, you're down, you're whatever, right? Somebody walks up and they smack the crap out of your face, your pattern just got interrupted, and you're not going to be sad anymore. You're going to be pissed off, right? That's a pattern interrupt, right? You're taking somebody from one emotion into another emotion. Now, I don't recommend your customer giving you a hard time and you smack them, but you have to find a way to interrupt that pattern. You have to break it, and you have to turn it around. The person asking the questions is the one in control of the conversation. If you find yourself on the other end of a phone conversation or sitting in an appointment and it's rapid fire questions, boom, 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 and all you're doing is answer, next question, answer, next question, answer, next question, you got to interrupt that pattern, because they're controlling you. So think about, okay, ask me the question, answer it, turn around, ask them a question in return. Break the pattern. Whatever the pattern is, break it. Got to be broken one way or another. And thing is, there's 1,000 different scenarios, right? There's as many scenarios as there are conversations in the day where, you're going to get yourself into a pattern, and you don't want to be in this pattern. You're in this conversation that you wish was going a different way. Interrupt it. Find a way to interrupt it, right? So, all right, next, yield control, right? And who are we trying? Who should be in control? We should be in control. Why? Because we're the professional, right? When we're sitting in on an appointment, or we're at an appointment, we are the professional. So the customer needs to yield control to us because we are the experts in our field, right? So we do that with what? With guided questioning. Now, some of these questions may seem generic, right? But that's okay, right? But we must control the conversation. You can't let your customer take you down a rabbit hole, take you down a path, right? And ask you questions that ultimately are going to stump you, or maybe you don't know the answer, right? Like, so again, pattern interrupt and then jump into your questions. And you have to take control. You must control the conversation. If you find yourself not controlling the conversation, the way that you get it back, grab the question. Figure it out, right? I'm not controlling this conversation. I'm going to get this control of this conversation back by asking questions. I've been in that situation. Like, I've literally been in that situation, and this was years ago. And I didn't know these techniques, and it was just rapid fire. And I felt like I was just, I don't know, like I was being interrogated by the FBI. It was just like so many questions. How many homes have you sold? Have you sold in this neighborhood? You know, how long have you been licensed in real estate? Why did you choose this company? Like, you know, what's your commission? What's this? What's that? What's this? What's that? I had no control over the entire conversation. They had an agenda, right? What's your marketing plan? They had the agenda, and they were going to get through their agenda as fast as they possibly could by just asking me the questions that they care about. And then when you answer those questions, right? So then you're answering, okay, so, you know, here's how many homes I've sold, right? Boom, they interrupt you and they ask another question. You didn't even get a chance. You don't even have a chance. Turn it around. Take control and turn the question around and ask them a question, right? I've sold X number of homes in this neighborhood. Why is that important to you? Right? What about that is important? Right? And why does that matter? Right? Why do you, whatever, right? But when you're losing control, questions, man, do it. Like, questions will really, questions will help you take back control, right? All right, expert tip, expose objections early. Imagine you're doing a presentation, right? Imagine you're doing a presentation for a seller. Do we already know the objections that they're going to have? Or when you're on the phone, do you already know what they're going to say? Probably yes, right? So you pre-frame it, right? You find the objective and you pre-frame that objection. So what do? You hit it right away, right? You hit it right away. So whatever their objection is going to be, right? Well, you're already talking to agents, right? You're planning, you're probably planning to sell later. Like, whatever those objections are going to be, right? Hit them up front. If you address the objection before they bring up the objection, you can always take them back to it. I'm glad you asked that, but if you recall, we actually discussed that about 10 minutes ago when I was talking about this, right? And this is how we handled that, this way. It's already been handled. They don't have that objection, right? We want to interview more agents, right? Like, let's say you get to it, and you walk in there and say, listen, if what I say today makes sense to you, and you feel comfortable and confident that I can sell your home and I can sell it in less time for more money, would you be comfortable signing the contract today? Yeah, I would. Okay, great. So then at the end, here's the contract, sign it. Well, we're just not quite ready. Okay. So in the beginning, I asked you if what I said today made you comfortable and confident that I could sell your home. If you would be ready to sign the paperwork, you said yes. I'm curious. What did I say today that made you not comfortable or confident that I can sell your home? And then just be quiet and let them talk. Let them talk, right? And see what they say, because probably they're going to say something, another objection that you've already hit. Right? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, maybe I didn't spend enough time on that. Let me go back and talk about this right here. Right? Oh, you don't want to sign a buyer agency agreement. I thought that I had explained it to you. Whatever it is. Right? Just be ready to hit the objection, but hit the objection before it becomes an issue. They don't want to sign. You're working with the buyer, and they're not going to want to sign the buyer agency agreement. Well, how are you going to hit that up front? You should never leave a showing without a signed agreement, without a signed buyer agreement or listing agreement. Like, there's no reason that you would. You set the expectation, you hit the objections up front, and if you do that, right, then the only reason you would not get that signed is if you decide to walk away. If you decide this is not right for me. You know, all right, so we looked at your house, we should list it for $459,000. You know, here's the paperwork. Oh no, we want to sell it for $689,000. Oh, I'm not the right agent for you, right? Like, and clearly I did not do a good job explaining the value here. You know, where did we miss this? Because, you know, and at the end of the day, you can't get them down to your number. You probably want to walk away, because who wants to stack up a bunch of expired inventory? Nobody, right? So, you know, sometimes we do. Sometimes the best deal is the one that you don't do. You know, I've walked away from listings in my time. I've not shown places to buyers because they don't want to sign an exclusive agency agreement, right? Or I've gotten a feeling that they weren't going to be loyal to me, and you know, I'm not going to waste my time. They're just, you know, when you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to everything else. So if you say yes to that one customer, sooner or later you're saying no to other customers that would have come along while you're dealing with those things, right? What's an embedded assumption? Also formally known as an embedded command, right? Oh, there's an error here. It should say once we sign the paperwork or once you sign the paperwork. So, okay, the embedded assumption, sign the paperwork, but there's a tone that you use, right? So it's going to say, once you sign the paperwork, would you prefer we schedule the photos this week or early next week? So you've got two things going on there. There's an embedded command and there's an embedded assumption. The embedded command is sign the paperwork. That's a command, right? Once you sign the paperwork, right, you change the tone. Once you sign the paperwork, right, once you sign the paperwork, would you prefer we schedule the photos this week or early next week? They don't pick it up. They don't pick up those subtleties, right? People don't pick it up, but that's a command, right? And then the assumption is that they're going to sign the paperwork, right? So when you have it like this, you have a much higher likelihood, because you're telling them in there to schedule it or to sign the paperwork, and then you're also asking the question, when are we going to be doing photos? Sign the paperwork, when are we doing photos? It's tonality. It's the tone and the pace of your voice. So once you sign the paperwork, would you prefer the photos this week or early next week? Right, subtle, but it's there, and they're hearing sign the paperwork. Right, so the things that you want them to do, give them the embedded command. Inside that embedded command, make the embedded assumption that yes, we are going to be signing the paperwork, and then because we're also scheduling our photos, right, next week, or I don't know, whenever you want to do the photos, right? So these are good. These are good, right? I know you're talking to other agents, but I know that if you list with me, you're going to have much better results, right? Change it. It's difficult at first. It takes a little bit of training, right? But when you can get the embedded command and you can get the embedded assumption inside there, it makes a difference. It really makes a difference. These little nuances of things, you're giving them a command, and people want to follow a command. They do, right? They went to school their entire lives. They went on to college their entire, you know, after school, you know, they've got a boss at their work. There's always somebody that's giving them an order, that's telling them to do something. You also, as the salesperson, need to tell them what to do, right? Why do you need to tell them what to do? Because you're the person that's going to treat them legally, ethically, and morally. We know that if they work with an agent that's in our office, they're working with somebody that has their best interest at heart, right? So you're not manipulating. You're not trying to get somebody to do something that they don't want to do. This is not going to work to get somebody to sell their house that doesn't. You're not going to go door knocking and say, hello, sir, I'm Joseph Miranda with MX Realty. I just wanted to know, do you want to sell your home? And then they're going to be like, well, no, I didn't, but you said it like that. I think I do, right? It doesn't work that way, right? We're here to, help them to make the decision, and we are the right decision when it comes to what agent they should work with when it comes time to buy or sell a home, right? So we have to do that. And that's right. I agree with you on that, Anna. A lot of times, I used to work with a lot more buyers. I don't really work with buyers anymore. But when I do, there's times when we're looking at a house and maybe it's the 15th house that we've looked at, and I know this is the house for them. Actually, I just did it. Let me take that back. I have a buyer. We're closing at the end of this month, and we looked at the condo because he sold his condo and he's buying another condo. And he got his condo under contract, and we had a lot of time. But the first time that we went out looking after we got his condo under contract, we went and looked at in a certain development, and there were 4 buildings there, and we looked at every listing in his price range in that building. Right? Well, not every, but we looked at a lot. And by the end of it, it was crystal clear which one this buyer should have bought. And I told him, I said, you need to buy this one. If you don't buy it, you're going to regret it, right? You need to buy this condo. Embedded command, right? You should buy this condo. Let me go back and write the contract, right? And I'm going to send it over to you, right? So, and he did. He ended up buying it, but that is our job. Our job is to know our customer, to know the product, to know the inventory, to know, their wants, to know their needs, to help them to make the right decision. Our job is not to make the decision for them, right? So, they still have to make that decision. They have to agree with what you're saying. So, and it's not just to get somebody to buy something so you can have a closing. That's never going to work for you. It's literally, it's never going to work for you that you're going to get somebody to buy something that they don't want to buy, right? I mean, I guess if you really want to play with their emotions and you really want to get people like going down that rabbit hole, but that's a really bad idea. You don't get long-term customers by just making a sale for the sake of making a sale. You get long-term customers by doing the right thing for them. And that is what builds the trust. When they buy something from you and they know that you helped them along the way and you helped them make the right decision, when it comes time to do it again, they're going to call you back. If they buy something from you and by closing, they get the feeling that you were just looking for a commission check, they're not going to call you back because they have ill feelings, right? They don't have good feelings about you. You have to sell them the right product. You have to be confident that this is the right product. And if you're not confident, then you should express that to them as well. Look, I know we saw 7 houses today, and honestly, I'm just not sure any of these would be a good fit for you. Happy to go back and, let me go restart the search, and I'll send you some more properties we can go look at. Now, if they say, oh, but wait, I like this one. Okay, well, now have that conversation. And that's okay, right? Maybe you missed something. We're not mind readers. Maybe there's something that you missed, right? But if you know, then you should speak it, right? All right, let's talking about establishing authority, right? So, we are, like I said, we're the professionals. We're the experts. If we cannot establish authority, then we got a problem, right? If you walk into the room as the real estate agent to talk about buying a home or selling a home, and they don't see you as the authority in your space, you already have a problem, right? So number one, your positioning. And to me, your positioning should happen before the appointment, right? In Bold Trail, we have our listing presentation. Usually I send the listing presentation either the day before or the day of the actual appointment, because that has everything in there. I don't want to sit there and tell you, hey, I've got all these 5-star reviews. Do you want to read some of my 5-star reviews and what all my customers said about me? Right? Or, hey, look, I sold all these houses right here. Do you want to look at these houses that I sold? Right? Like, I don't want to do that, but I do want them to see it. I want to make sure that they know it. right? I want to make sure that they're able to find and access these things, right? So I am the authority. I'm giving them the knowledge on me, right? And like on here, if I've sold in the neighborhood, I definitely want them to know I've sold in your neighborhood, right? I sold this one, and this one, right? Definitely want them to know. But and you've got to do it humbly. It's I don't know how you brag, a humble brag, I guess. I don't know, but you've got to do it humbly because you don't want to sound arrogant. Not too arrogant, I guess. I mean, they want to sense some confidence in you, but not too much confidence. All right. This next one, this one takes practice. It's kind of like the embedded commands. Upswing, downswing. So, and there's a use for both of these. A downswing conveys confidence. An upswing is the opposite, right? So think about when people speak. Are you ready to sign the contract? Are you ready to sign the contract? Right? So the difference at the end, sign the contract, sign the contract. It's a nuance in the way that you speak, upswing, downswing, and this works great on the phone. I mean, it works well in person as well, but on the phone, if you get the upswing, downswing, now usually it's a downswing, right? And it's going to be list with me, meet with me, sign the contract, right? Those things. Not list with me, meet with me, sign the contract, right? Sign the contract. Like at the end, the tone of your voice goes into a higher pitch. It's the pitch, right? List with me, and you end abruptly, right? So did you want to go to that restaurant? You see the difference, right? Do you want to go on a date with me? There's a difference, right? So, and look, I use both of these because, if it's great to be confident and to, present confidently, but there's also times when you don't want to, come off as like the most confident person in the world. Sometimes you might do a presentation and say, look, it all sounds great, but you sounded so good, I don't really trust you. Right? Because it sounds too good. It all just sounds too great. So sometimes you have to kind of like, tone down your confidence a little bit. Upswing, downswing, every close should probably be a downswing, right? Look, let's do this. Let's go ahead and set the appointment. I'm going to go ahead and put you on my calendar, and I'll be over there tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Look, let's do this. I'm going to put you on my calendar, and I'll be over there tomorrow at like 3 o'clock, right? Like it doesn't have the same authority. But it's the end. Don't drag it out at the end, right? Got to be abrupt, downswing. You want to meet with me, right? Meet with me, not meet with me, right? Meet with me. The nuance, but again, it's one of those things. When your tone is going down at the end and it's abrupt, stop. Confidence. When your tone is up and it's higher, it's less confident, right? I don't know how that works for women. Honestly, I don't know, because I don't think women don't put too much bass in your voice. I don't know how it works for women, but I'm sure you can figure that out. But it's really more about the tone, right? It's more about that tone. You need to have that confident tone, and then just abrupt end, right? Do you want to go on a date? Do you want to go on a date with me? Do you want to go on a date with me? Right? Difference. Again, subtle nuance in the tone and the fluctuation of your voice, but it makes all the difference when it comes to them perceiving confidence or lack of in the words that you're saying. Words are words, right? It's kind of like I might text somebody something, and to me it sounds completely fine, right? But when they read it in a different tone. So now they're like, wow, Joe, why are you so rude? So like for me, when I text, I put a little emoji afterwards, like a smile or something. or I'll put a word in there, right? More than happy to do this, whatever it is. Like, you've got to be very careful, because words are words, and depending on the, and I guarantee you, if you're here, you probably did it yourself, right? You read a text message and you read it in your angry voice in your head, and you're like, wow, this person's a jerk. And then you responded, and then they're like, whoa, wait, what's going on, right? And you're like, and then you realize that, oh, I read that in my angry voice. I should have read that in my happy voice, right? I should have read that in this voice, right? So your tonality and how the words are the words, but the tone that you use will make all the difference in how those words are received, or maybe deflected, right? Those words may just bounce right off of them because they don't want to accept it based on the way that you said it, right? Was it Maya Angelou or Mother Teresa? I don't know. People will remember, won't remember what you said, but they'll remember how you made them feel, right? Like, no, that's not the right one. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. That's the right quote. That's the quote I'm looking for. It's not what you say, it's how you say it, right? I mean, there's certain ways to say it, and then you can use the exact same words, but if you change the tone, they have a totally different meaning. You got to get the tone right. If you want confidence, you need to meet with me, right? Now, you need to meet with me, right? Like, it's just different. Upswing, downswing, upswing, downswing. It's big one. Social proof. And we touched on this when we were talking about the authoritative positioning. Social proof is also going to be very important for you. So this one isn't necessarily any type of neuro program or anything like that. This is just really make sure that you have some social proof. Make sure that you have something that show, like, again, the 5-star reviews. Those are social proof. Right? You can talk about if you've got a big social media following, or if you make custom videos for your listings. Like, just think social. So it has to do with other people. It doesn't have to be social media. It's just when you're talking about social, you're talking about including other people. Right? So social proof, right? So you need them to know that, like, at some point, I would say, and probably everybody watching this, was the worst decision a buyer or seller could have ever made to choose you as a real estate agent. Me too. When we're brand new, fresh out of real estate school, wet behind the ears, have no idea about anything, right? All we know is what we learned, and we think we have it all figured out. And then we go out and we get our first customer. Godspeed to that customer, man, because you have no experience, you have nothing going on, you've never done anything, and everything that we're doing right now is theory, and it's no experience involved inside that. Sometimes you get through it, right? But once you get going and you start gaining that experience, you start having those closings, you've been through the tough negotiations, you've been through that roller coaster of the ups and downs of what real estate can do to you, you have social proof, right? Here's the results that I've gotten for this person. This customer was just like you. Here's what we did for them, and here's where they are now, right? Social proof. When you're brand new, you kind of got to fake it till you make it. You might have to leverage a little bit more on the office. Right? Like, oh yeah, my office has sold homes in here, right? My office has sold this many homes in the last year. You can do that because you don't have your own social proof. Maybe you have a background that lends itself to success in real estate. Let's say you're a mortgage lender, right? You can bring that even if you're brand new in real estate, but you've been doing mortgages for a few years, right? Well, I'm bringing my expertise now over into the purchase and sales side. Right. And now I'm armed with my mortgage knowledge so that I can help my customers even more than the agents that don't have their mortgage license. Right. What's the social proof? You have to find your social proof. I did this. I did this. I did this. I did this. And all of these things were done for other people. right? The social is the people. That's why reviews are such a big deal, because the people write the reviews. That's why it's such a big deal that you get the reviews, because those are coming from, hopefully, somewhat objective people that, would have, that, I don't know, people trust that, they're telling them the truth, right? And when it all comes together, right, when all of this comes together, then what are what are you doing? All right. You've gotten through all of these things. You'll just, the customer will decide if you did a good job or bad job by deciding whether or not they're going to sign that contract. They signed the contract, then they trusted what you say, you did a good job, and now you got to go out and get it done, right? But how do you get the contract signed, right? If you leave the appointment and you never even asked for the contract, you might have, you basically lost before you even started, right? This is just an example. Everybody has their own method that they use, but everybody, well, let's not say everybody should have their own method that they use, that when you're at an appointment, what is the script or the method that you use to get that contract over to them, to get them to sign, right? What is it? What do you do? What is the thing? So, here, this agent's just basically telling them, here's your best strategy, here's the price, right? This actually isn't my method. This isn't what I use, right? I give the customers the numbers, and I tell them to choose the number, right? Based on, what's sold, based on actives, and then based on days on market. By when do you need to be sold? Right. Well, if you need to be sold in a shorter amount of time, then we probably need to put the price a little bit towards the bottom of this range that we talked about. If you have some time to sit on the market and you don't mind, you want to sit on the market and maybe squeeze out a few thousand more, we can go up a little bit, but it's up to you, right? My favorite thing is silence, and it's so awkward sometimes. Silence can be very awkward, but you can't break the silence, right? You have to be comfortable with some level of silence, and when you're comfortable with silence, sooner or later somebody's going to speak, and let them speak, right? Let them say what they have to say. They're ready to sign. They're not ready to sign. Whatever, wherever they're at, that's okay. When you get to this step, you should be a little more calm, right? Maybe speak a little bit slower, and you're just, now it's just us. Look, we're just talking, right? This is what we come up with. This is what looks good. You stated in the beginning, that if what I say makes you confident I can sell your place, you're ready to sign the paperwork, go ahead and get that started here. Paper, pen, get it signed. If you don't, it's okay, right? Again, you've got some, some closings, some closing strategies, right? Now, there's a lot of closing strategies. The assumptive close might be the best one. Assume you got the business. Just assume you got the business, right? Like once all right, once this is signed, here's what the next step is going to be. Right. Once this is signed, I'm gonna take this back. I'm gonna go set up more homes. We're gonna start looking at stuff by tomorrow, because that's when you said your next availability is. Right here, go ahead and sign this, and then once I get back to my office, I'm gonna go ahead and do this. Right, whatever it is, just assume that you got the business. There's a lot of powerful closes out there, but just assuming because most people, they're just not gonna want to be. No, hold on, right? Like no, some will. But if they like you and they have some level of trust in what you've said, right? Sometimes people don't know that they're really just ready to go. Yeah, there's a lot of closes, right? There's a lot of different closing techniques, and you have to know the closing techniques and how they apply to that situation, because closing for an appointment is different than closing for paperwork, right? It's different for closing Do you have a close to get your customer to write a contract on a home that you know that they should probably buy? Or do you have a way that you get them to close on that? What about an offer on their property? Do you have do you have a close to get them to sign a good offer on their property? I mean, some customers you don't need the close. They trust you already. When they're repeat customers, they might just listen to you. But the very first time that you talk to them, you need some closing techniques. Closing techniques will save you, I don't know, a lot of time. Learn the closing scripts. Closing scripts are vital, right? Again, we talked about the takeaway close earlier. I use that one. I used the assumptive close. I use the hard close, right? Like, you should have some of these, right? Hard close works well with the downswing. You need, let's make an appointment. Meet me today, right? Like, you need, you need to have, you need to have these, and they're all very similar. You're asking for the same thing. It's all the same thing. Again, it's not what you say, it's how you said it. You say it in a different way. You say the same thing, use some different words. It's going to hit them a little bit differently, right? Like, are you talking to an accountant or are you talking to a CEO? It's going to be different how you're going to want to close on them, right? If you don't know why, then go back and learn some of the DISC training and why that is, right? Let's bring this thing full circle, right? Curiosity, questioning. You get to the end. You get to the end, and they need to sign the paperwork. We need to think about it, right? Again, you need to dig into that. Okay, no problem. All right, well, I'll give you a call tomorrow. Let me know how it goes. Why, right? Remember the ABCs of cold calling, right? A is always be closing. D is double down closing. So just because you got one objection on your first go round on the close doesn't mean you pack everything in and you just leave. Understand where they're at. Maybe they're one question away from signing. Maybe there's one question that no matter how good and thorough your listing presentation was, it just didn't address this one thing that was so vital and important to them. Dig into it, right? What do you need to think about? Like, what is there to think about? We went through everything. We talked about comps, marketing plan. What questions do you have? Right, here it is. Then what do? You handle the objection and you close it again, right? Handle the objection and you close it again. Same thing if you're on the phone, right? We're not ready for, I don't know, whatever reason. Okay, great. Well, here's my objection handler. All right, now I've got some time, or let's meet. Right, handle the objection and then turn around and hit them with the close. If you hit the objection and you don't close, then when are you going to close? That's the opportunity, right? Oh, I'm glad you asked about that. Yeah, actually, the photographs, they're going to be professional. I don't take photos on my own. Sorry about that. I should have clarified that. But yeah, these will be professional photographers. Actually, I'm gonna start texting them now and get them scheduled to come here by Monday. In the meantime, if you don't mind, here's the paperwork. If you can start, you can sign here. Right? Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that, right? So what do? Right? What's your thought process? And we are going to be sending out some additional stuff on top of this. So your action plan, so to speak, right? Number one, every time you're with a buyer or seller, assume you got the business. Speak as if you already have the business. It's yours, right? Make sure your values and your actions are aligned and they're working together. You can offer two options on anything, even listings, right? You can have a higher commission and a lower commission option. Agents do that, right? Don't spend a lot of time on objections. They don't matter, right? I mean, they do matter because it's an objection, but you don't need to write you're not putting together a 30-minute presentation handling the objection. Just handle it and then close again, and then breathe. Wait. Wait means why am I talking? Sometimes you just got to be quiet and let people like process what's going on in their head or figure out the decision that they're going to make, right? And if at the end of it you still don't end up getting the listing, then what you need to do is turn around, is stop when you leave and just reflect on what happened in that appointment and how can I do better, right? What should I have done differently? How could I have handled that in a different way? How could I have answered that question in a different way? Because a lot of times we know where we dropped the ball, you know, so we just got to figure out, okay, next time the ball is passed to me in that way, how am I going to handle it? Right? What am I going to do? Right? All right. Well, that's about it for what I have to share today. Does anybody have any questions or thoughts on anything that was discussed today? Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, one quick reminder before we cut out today. Next week is our next Beyond Real Estate training. This is it's in Suite 1 event venue, Hollywood, Florida. So we're going to go south this time. And what are we looking at? What are we doing here? We're going to be talking about closing gifts. So if you want some cool ideas for closing gifts that you can get your customers at closing, or, you know, maybe holiday gifts, things that you can gift, you know, home gadgets, which are really geared right towards your house, right? Geared toward a home, which is what we sell. These are, you know, they're really cool items, and, you know, they're pretty affordable for, you know, for what you're getting. This one, they just released a sushi maker, and we're going to be making sushi. You're going to make your own sushi, and you're going to, I guess you could eat your sushi if you want. I don't know, you take it home, but I think sushi doesn't stay good for very long, so I don't think you want to eat it as a leftover. But we really hope to see you guys there. I hope you guys can make it. Again, these are things that we're doing to add a little bit of value to to your business, add a little bit of value for you. We definitely want it to be worth your time to show up for it. We are not looking to waste anybody's time. So, and then the next Ask the Broker training is going to be 2 weeks from today. That's going to be on the 24th. We generally don't know what we're going to talk about until about a week or so before. Although we are in a series right now, I think this is part 3. The next one will be part 4 of the series. So hopefully you guys are finding good value in these things, and hopefully we'll be seeing you then. And then the week after that is our Roundtable Mastermind. So again, no reason to stay stuck. In the meantime, if you need something in between any of these, feel free to pop in the lobby, give me a call, send Irene a message, whatever it is. Let us help you. Let us help you take your business to the next level. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We really, truly appreciate the people that show up, especially the people that show up every week. It means a lot. It really, really does, because we do this for you. This is for you to help you take your business to the next level. So reach out, whatever you need. We're here. Thank you, everybody.